Cool. This is INSP.EAT. I decided to start inviting inspiring people and have a good food with them and talk about production, productivity, creativity, inspiration, etc. And I'm really pleased to be here with one of the best street fashion photographers in the world, Katz Sinding, who's also recently an author with his new book. This is not a fucking street style book. I really love the name. Adam, how are you?
I'm good. I'm cold, but I'm good.
You're in freezing Prague, so welcome.
It's freezing cold.
Cool. Man, you travel a lot. Well, like when I say a lot, I mean it's like 300 days a year, right?
Maybe more, but yeah.
Is it even possible to say how you're like? Is there something such a thing as a regular day, and how does it look like?
I think that my day is pretty much just comprised of work, which is fine because I like my job. But when it's fashion week, I don't normally get to sit down at cafes like this. It's normally wake up, as early as possible, get to the first show before it starts, like 30 minutes before it starts, 15 minutes before, to get photos of the people arriving, then stand around all day waiting for people outside of shows, and then when the sun goes down, you go home and you edit, or you make your selection and you edit, and then try and get something to eat and go to sleep as early as possible, and wake up and do the same thing every day for like a month without one day off, or more. But it's more than that. Maybe then you'll have one day off, and then it's another month like that.
So how many hours a day you usually sleep?
Oh, it's better now. I have somebody who retouches my photos for me. When I used to retouch my own photos, I would sleep 3-4 hours. 5 would be like a good amount of sleep. Now I get 6 or 7 hours if possible, which is not bad. But when you're not sleeping, you like force yourself to go to sleep, and then you force yourself to wake up. It's not really the most restful sleep. You're always thinking you're going to be late, and so you're always a little bit stressed when you wake up. So it's not the best way to wake up every morning, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyways, when you're on the move basically all the time, I'm always surprised. How can you keep being productive? Is it for instance, are you constantly checking the messages, emails, or you set aside the time to do that?
I'm constantly checking it. It's an addiction, I think, more than anything. You have to have the momentum. Like if I take a day off, it's very difficult for me to get the motivation to start again. When it's the big fashion weeks, it's so busy that you're constantly at this high level of, productivity and needing to complete things. With the smaller fashion weeks, you have more downtime, so the momentum slows down, and that's when it gets dangerous. Like you find that you get sick, and you find that you get lazy. It's harder to get out of bed. Like you don't have that constant stimulation. So it can be difficult. They always say, like during like the Tour de France, like most of the times when somebody's gonna have to drop out of the race, it's the day after one of the 3 rest days, because they've had the day to not ride or ride less, and their muscles tighten up, and then they get back on the bike the next day, and they have so much lactic acid that they can't do what they're supposed to do. So you have to keep the momentum up, and then you kind of forget about the struggle, I guess.
So you just had to keep being always on the move, right?
Yeah, it's like that Jason Statham movie where he's has to keep his heart rate at a certain level or he's gonna die.
Okay, makes sense. You're running a lot. What does running mean to you? Is it a relaxation? Is it workout? Is it thinking time?
It's all. It's more than anything. I find that if I don't run, I get depressed. Like you realize that when you take 40 minutes to go run or exercise, and at least you have that time to step away from working. We work so much that at a certain point you kind of get a little bit depressed with the fact that your whole life is work. Regardless of if you love your work or not, it's difficult to only work. Running is it allows me to get away from it. And if I'm really depressed or stressed or anything, you just go run, and then you come back and your mood is better because of the endorphins. I have to do it. I'm upset I couldn't go running before this morning, but there's snow on the ground, and I don't want to slip and break my leg. So,
absolutely. Hopefully the sound is fine because the acai bowl in the making is probably making all the noise. So sorry for that. Anyways, what would be your secret weapon? Something that really, like some kind of life hack or an app or something that keeps you being productive? I don't know.
I think that. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very structured. Like everything that I do one way. All of my photos are kind of shot the exact same way. I'm not what I would consider to be creative in any kind of way. I'm more focused on like a repetition of motion. So I think it comes from some kind of obsessive compulsive disorder of some sort, mild probably, but if you do anything a million times, it becomes easy. I'm also super organized, generally speaking, except for when I lost your email somehow. But I put everything into a calendar, and I set reminders, and all of my photos are tagged very meticulously, and everything is very easy to navigate and find in the future in case my memory fails me. Your brain can only hold so much information at one point in time, so I have to rely on. I wish I could write things down like you do, but I don't have the capacity. And also, when I'm outside and it's freezing cold like this, the last thing that I want to do is hold a pen and write something down. So I end up trying to remember it until I can type it into my phone and hope that my phone battery doesn't die.
Yeah. Are you? Do you have like a team or somebody who takes care of some of the stuff, or you're like a personal assistant of your own?
I have one person who edits the photos, and I have another person who posts the photos onto my website. It's a ton of work, and it would mean if I were to do all that myself, it would be impossible. It would actually be impossible. There's not enough hours in the day. And then I have an agent, an agency who licenses my photos. Thank you. Who licenses my photos, and then I have another agent who takes care of bookings and things like that. But sometimes I handle it myself. Sometimes I hand everything over. It just depends on how busy I am and how much free time I have, I guess.
Absolutely. One question: when I say hard work versus talent, what's the percentage in your opinion?
I think that talent, it doesn't matter if you don't practice. I mean, that being said, there are anomalies like these, 5-year-old kids who can be like black belts in karate or something like that with little practice. Talent is part of it, but it can't be, practice is everything. I probably could have been amazing at piano if I would have practiced more, but I was good at it, but I wasn't great. But if I practiced, I would have been amazing. Same thing with the camera. If I went to school for photography, I probably would be a much better photographer, but I just taught myself. I don't have really the patience to sit and follow a set of instructions. I'd rather make mistakes and learn from my mistakes, or hope that I learn from my mistakes. So, hard work. I think talent can only be uncovered through hard work, except for in very, very rare situations.
Yeah. Is there an artist or a photographer that really inspires you or had inspired you before?
There's photographers. I'd never really I have my degree in art history, but for some reason I didn't ever care about photographers. At that point in time, I wasn't really terribly interested in photography aside from just as a hobby. The only one that ever really struck any interest in me was Diane Arbus, just because she did something that I knew I could never do. She just went and shot very strange strangers. She'd go into their homes and enter their lives, which I thought was really weird and impressive. Later, I like Cartier-Bresson, of course. I like Hans Führer. He shoots all available light, beautiful long lens photos, fashion photos. He's incredible. I like Vivienne Sassen. I think is probably, in my opinion, the most impressive to me. I could never shoot like her because she sees things that I'll never see. But there's a million amazing photographers. That's the thing about photography, is you have so much. There's so much opportunity to to see. I mean, even if you and I take the same photo and we're standing right next to one another of the same thing, we'll both see it a different way. I think that's the interesting thing. It's like painting. You have so much painting and drawing and illustration. You have so much ability to interpret it, like through your how you move your hand. But photography, there's some things that you can't avoid, showing in a photo. But the way that you choose to capture it and crop it and expose it, it can be two completely different photos, two completely different interpretations of what you see. But there's not as much freedom to, like Picasso like paints a woman and it's like, that's a woman, like you can see it, but it's very abstract. Photography is not nearly as abstract. It has some rigidity to it, and I think that's why I like it so much. Is it doesn't, creativity is important, but it's not, you can still take amazing photos without being creative. You can just document as well, which I think is pretty interesting.
So would you consider yourself an artist or a journalist?
Journalist, not an artist, not at all.
It's really funny that people who I really consider being artists are always saying that they're not really an artist, but
then people who call themselves artists, I think it's the most pretentious thing in the entire world as well.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like anybody, I mean, unless you're exceptionally established as an artist, like I think anybody who calls themselves an artist is immediately in my book like either lying or just full of themselves. I don't know. I mean, it's such a high term. I mean, unless that's all you do, but most of the artists that I've encountered, at least but that are not very, very established, are artists, but they're also bartenders,
Absolutely.
and wannabe actors and things like that. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we'll do whatever you have to do to make your passion happen. But I just find that term to be.
Yeah, I just read a really good quote that I don't make art to make money. I make money to make art. So I think that's also a way of thinking that some of the artists had to do it.
For sure,
to do it,
absolutely.
Cool. Is there a book or a movie that really inspired you, or that kind of even changed your way of thinking, or
not really?
Or something you read or seen recently? In a plane, you probably have enough time to watch movies or read books.
Yeah, I mean, movies these days generally are pretty shit. I mean, there's some great movies. I mean, for me, Wes Anderson films, I think, are the most interesting and most fun to watch. Life Aquatic is my favorite movie of all time, but I also like watching movies about life and, I don't know, movies like that about tragedy, and I think movies that make you respect time, like respect the fact that time is fleeting, even if it's just a movie about a mother and then she's raising her child and she's getting older and the kid's getting older and them fighting, and or parents parents being young. And what was this movie, Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, where they fall in love and then they're she kind of follows their whole life. I can't remember what it's called, but movies like that where it's kind of not about anything except just life, and you just realize how time is very, very finite, and that hopefully it makes you respect that. I think that's the most important thing and the most inspiring thing, because it gets you not just thinking about what you're going to buy next and what you have. It makes you realize that none of that matters, and you need to live your life before it's done.
Yeah. So you're in the fashion world basically all the time, 24 hours a day. Do you have a favorite brand or a favorite designer?
I mean, I like this brand called Acronym. It's a Canadian guy. The brand is based in Berlin. It's just like tech wear, like Gore-Tex. It's what I like to wear all the time, basically. I mean, I kind of have gotten away from designers just because most of it's not super practical for my job. I like Raf Simons, I guess, if I had to choose. But I don't even really own that much Raf Simons anymore because I don't end up wearing it. I just wear, Acronym, Stone Island, Nike, Rafa for the cycling clothes, Rafa, and that's about it.
Okay.
Or Solomon as well. Solomon, the French trail running clothes.
They used to be like a ski brand.
I think they still do that. They're amazing. Then they have some new stuff that's pretty amazing for what I'm doing, for being outside all day as well. So those are like the only brands where I'm like looking for it. Otherwise, everything else, you know, if I find something interesting when I'm traveling, it's cool, but I don't really buy anything anymore except for that.
Okay. You said about yourself that you're antisocial, and is it even possible in a fashion world?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Everybody's a snob. So, like, we went last night to this cocktail for the fashion week, and we were there for 15 minutes. I mean, I said hi to everybody that I know, or that I saw that I know, and then I left. It's not that I have anything against those people. I like Prague is like one of my favorite places for, thank you very much, one of my favorite places for people, because everybody I feel is not super pretentious. But generally speaking, the socializing that happens in the fashion world is to get something out of somebody else. Like, people they view you as important, or you view them as important, and providing you with something that that you need. And I really like that. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm just talking to them because they have something to offer me.
Because you need something from them.
But also, it's like, I just don't really. It's a bunch of, in the fashion industry, it's a bunch of very superficial people. So I don't really need any superficial relationships. Okay. I mean, there are some amazing people that I've met, but generally speaking, it's like, what, you sit around and you talk about clothes the whole time? Yeah, it can be interesting, but mostly it's about the consumer aspect of it. I'm a consumer just like anybody else, maybe more so, but I don't know. I don't really think that that's what friendship is all about. I don't know. I'd rather have 5 really good friends than 500 people that I say hi to and then don't even remember their name. And I think
Makes
that's
sense.
what those kinds of circles will give you, is just these superficial friendships.
Cool. If you could choose to be anyone or anything, any kind of job, position, whatever, just for 24 hours, you would have all the skills for that, just 24 hours just to try. What would it be?
Yeah.
Or who would it be?
That's an amazing question. I could do anything.
Even from history or from future, whatever.
I think I'd probably want to be, it sounds really boring, but I'd want to be like a park ranger in one of the national parks in Canada or the US, but not one of the guys who drives around in a truck, but like somebody who lives for a couple hikes through the Grand Canyon and checking that people aren't trapped underneath a boulder or whatever. I think that would be an amazing job.
Okay, what's your favorite place on Earth?
I don't know.
We can pick 5,
I mean, Copenhagen, definitely. I just went to Lisbon recently, and that was incredible. I haven't been enough places, honestly. I know I've been a lot of places, but I haven't been enough places to really give an accurate answer. I mean, I've never been to the continent of Africa. I've never really traveled around Australia besides, Sydney and Melbourne. I'm sure that I'm missing the best places on Earth. Yeah, I have no idea. I like Scandinavia a lot. I like cold weather. I like Prague. I don't know about Czech Republic. I've just driven around from here to Kutná Hora. I'm sure that as you go further out, the landscape becomes more interesting. But I like places with dramatic landscapes: California, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia. I think Alaska would be amazing. I mean, who knows?
Who knows?
I don't know. I think the east coast of Russia could be incredible as well, Kamchatka Peninsula, and then those Russian islands that look like they'd be part of Japan. I can never remember what they're called, but I think that would be amazing. I don't know. There's too many places. That's an impossible question to answer, I think.
That's true. And my last question, before we get to eat, what advice would you give now to your 20-year-old self? Do something differently, or do something more?
I probably would have focused more on photographers while I was studying in university. I mean, just so I'd know more about the history of photography and paid more attention to those things. I just didn't really care. I just wanted to get my degree and, get out of there. And I don't know. I would have started taking photos earlier, but I think when I was 20, I was already taking photos. 2001. Yeah, I was already taking photos, but I think I would have taken more. I don't know. I don't really have any regrets. I guess I would have studied abroad more, maybe, like, but I studied abroad. I don't know. I kind of.
So that means
I just should have studied
that
harder.
That means you did everything right.
No, definitely not. But I would have. I guess I should have been more social in college. I didn't really make that many friends in college because I didn't really go to class. But I got good grades. I just didn't really go to class.
All right, Adam. Thank you so much for your time
Thanks.
and your super busy schedule. And this was INSP.EAT, and let's eat.
Thank
GoPro, stop recording. It's such a cool feature.
Did it do it? Nope, it didn't do it. GoPro, stop recording.